My name is Kristopher, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm from the Ontario Sustainable Energy Association. OSEA is an association that represents community power in Ontario. And we were inspired by the Middle Grid project in Copenhagen. This is the 20 megawatt offshore wind project, 40 megawatt offshore wind project, which is half owned by the community through a co-op and half owned by the local utility. This project inspired the one windmill that's located in the waterfront that Previn showed earlier in Toronto. And from it, community groups around the province formed the association to champion the idea of community power and to fight for policy framework in Ontario to make local ownership possible. And just to give you an idea of who our members are, we represent cooperatives, municipalities, individual First Nations, also known as Indians outside of North America, educational institutions, churches, mosques, basically anybody who's local who wants to develop a project fits into our local membership structure, and they're developing solar, wind, biogas, the whole gamut of renewable energy. So it's not just about wind, it's really about taking a portfolio approach, and some of our members are just in the early stages of developing community energy plans and assessing what their opportunities are. We also have corporate members that are members of the association, and those are companies that either want to partner with, are developers that want to partner with communities, those that want to supply services to communities, or those that want to advise or help communities develop projects. So it's about half and half, but the core of our membership are actually called champions, and they're community groups that have secured feed-in tariff contracts in Ontario. So, questions to think about while I'm going through my presentation, which I hope I answer. What type of future do we want? I usually ask this of the people that I'm talking to in Ontario, but where are we trying to go here? Because it's important to know that direction, at least, and then figure out the steps that we need to get there. What have we achieved and learned from the Ontario experience? So, what we've achieved in the last couple of years with our Green Energy and Green Economy Act is really experience based on going back to Previn's time and to Heinrich and to everyone else, including all of the people in Ontario who have been fighting for this for 30 or 40 years. We're just the generation that gets to reap the benefits. Why is community power important as part of the strategy? And whenever I say the strategy, if we really want to see rapid deployment and broad distribution of sustainable energy, community needs to be the foundation of that energy revolution that we're talking about, or the energy evolution. So I'll talk a little bit about why I think that is, why communities are so important. And then what are the challenges and opportunities to communities specifically, but to the sector at large? And then lastly, the most important question, which is, I'm going to talk to you for a while, but really, what can you do? How can you take up the torch? And most of you are in the room, hopefully already doing this, but there's a few faces I don't recognize, so hopefully you'll take back some ideas. So I put this up because there's no energy in this, except for the sun, the wind, the forest, everything's there. Now, in Ontario, for the past 20 years, we have not invested significantly in our infrastructure or in our generation, right? And it's sort of like a road. Imagine if you built a road and you drove on it, and over the winter time it cracked a little bit, heaved, and 5 years later someone said, we need to fix the road. And someone said, no, it's too expensive. We don't want to spend the money on fixing the road, we'll do it later. 2 or 3 years later, more cracks open up, more holes. And imagine if it had been 20 years, you've been driving over that road, there's more potholes than there is actually road in it now. This is the situation in Ontario's electricity sector. We have extension cords like this plugged into an octopus running out across the province, and the wires need to be rebuilt, and the generation that's out there, which is mostly centralized power, needs to be replaced, whether it's the atomic power plants, the coal power plants, or the hydro facilities. They need to be replaced. So right now in Ontario we're having a discussion about what type of replacement do we want to invest in, right? And our argument, of course, is for community power. And what's interesting is that 100 years ago this October in Ontario, a gentleman by the name of Sir Adam Beck, who was a provincial leader but also a municipal leader at the time, the mayor of a small town, connected Niagara Falls, the first hydroelectric plant that was built there, to 7 municipalities. And his whole focus was on municipal or provincial ownership. Now in Ontario, we've taken it one step further with community power so that everyone in the province can participate. So 100 years ago in Ontario, we were 100% renewable energy, with small hydroelectric dams and big hydroelectric dams that powered the province. It wasn't until about 50 years ago that we introduced coal and atomic energy, and then later natural gas. So the idea that we have to do it with what we call traditional energy is false, because we did it with renewables before, and now there's a tremendous potential for us to change things again. And I put this up here because imagine if this was your backyard. We hear about people complaining about windmills in their backyard and what that would look like. But this is what happens in West Virginia and in Tennessee. They chop the tops off of mountains to mine for coal. This is what's feeding our power plants in Ontario right now, and around the world. Imagine the devastation that's created. It's not just what you burn and how much it costs, but it's the significant impact behind the scenes that none of us really think about. And there's a really great website, I have it here, ilovemountains.org, that you can visit online. And it will actually let you use Google Maps to chop the tops off of mountains across the states. Okay? So it'll give you the visual impact. It's pretty impressive and scary stuff.
Sometimes you rate them.
Yeah, same. Mining is mining, right? So, and we have a lot to gain, right? Whether you believe in climate change or not, and I would suspect most people here do, the reality is that there's a lot of things here, right? Energy independence, we can preserve our forests, there's an opportunity to create new jobs, more livable, healthy cities, clean water, healthy children, make money, whatever it is, renewable energy has a tremendous opportunity for us. Right? And I was at the Climate Summit back in November, and I saw a number of people here. What was interesting for me was I didn't go to listen to the politicians, I went to meet the people that were doing things in Denmark. And if you go to Copenhagen, or if you go to Germany, to Schleswig-Holstein, or to other places, you can see it, right? It's not an idea or something we might do. It's just the way it is, right? You're the crazy guy if you don't have solar on your rooftop, because everybody else does. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, after his half-hour introduction, actually said some really smart stuff. He said, if you're going to wait for your politicians to do something, you're going to be waiting a long time. It's going to be people on the ground, like us in this room, that are going to affect the change that leads the politicians to make something happen. Right? One of my mentors and colleagues back in Canada says, politicians don't start parades, they get in front of them. Right? If you go to a parade, they get in front of the parade and then they claim that it was their idea. Right? That's okay. We need to start the parade and then push them in front.